Welcome back to the channel. For those of you that don't know, my name's Joe and I'm documenting my process of healing my abandonment wounds, my attachments, and just trying to be the best person I can be. All because I've had a lot of failed relationships, and you know, there's only so many times you can think it's somebody else or blame other people before you have to realise it is yourself. And I'd recommend you guys do the same. You know, you can't change other people, you can, but the person you've really got control over is yourself. But today I'm going to talk about inner child work. Now, what is inner child work? Inner child work is, how do I explain it? How should I explain this? It is being there for your younger self. Now, we've all got some sort of childhood trauma. Some people just deal with it intuitively. You know, you find those friends that are just cracking on with life, just succeed in life, don't have to do any work. But if you're watching this video, you've probably had some issues or you're going through some issues. But that's okay. Trust me, I've got a lot of childhood trauma. And I hate using the word trauma because, you know, you think about some of the worst things, you know, people could be getting assaulted, sexually assaulted. They could lose family members, you know, they could be in a really bad accident. But for me, some of the things that I seen when I did this childhood work, this inner child work, was as simple as me being left out of playing when I was younger. And I needed my parents to be there for me, and they wasn't. So that honestly, it can be some of the simplest things. And these memories don't necessarily have to be in your mind now, because that's what the inner work's for. These memories came up when I did the inner child work. You know, there's some pivotal moments in my life. Like I caught my mum cheating on my dad when I was 12, and that obviously stands out to me, and that stood out to every therapist I ever spoke to as being like a pivotal moment. But there's a lot of other little moments that led us to be the way we are and have these subconscious thoughts, because, you know, if any of you know me externally, like, I'm super happy with who I am. I'm happy with who I am as a person, as a father, what I've achieved at work, you know, how I show up every day, my level of fitness, like what I give to myself. But still, deep rooted within me, there's some insecurities. And the way you get over those by various things, but today what we're going to touch on is the inner child work. Now, to get into inner child work, the way that I'm going to describe it, there may be other methods, but the way I'm going to describe it is based on meditation. So if you've never done meditation before, I suggest you get started on meditation and do that for a week, 2 weeks. I did meditation and I clicked with it straight away. I just really liked it. And I just believed in it. Just sit there and just be still and just listen to what the guides are telling you in the meditation. And that's not guides in your brain. Like, there's actually people talking to you in the meditation. And it's good. And it's just that moment of stillness for me. And once you can get into that moment of stillness and enjoy it, you put this body in this state of like relaxedness that then allows you to go a bit deeper. So I was given a childhood meditation from my coach, Dan Lunn. I'll try and link his details below, but if anybody wants to get in contact with him, incredible guy, he's changed my life, highly recommended. He gave me a meditation, and the first time I did it, instantly hit. And what it does, you put yourself into this meditative state, I think that's a word. You start meditating, well, that's good enough. And then he walks you through, so you're in a really relaxed state, and then he walks you through this process, and then he tells you that like your younger self's there, and just let it come out. Don't try and guide yourself a certain way. Don't have a preconceived thought in your mind. Just go with whatever comes up. Like I say, I've had some really strange ones. I've had that I was above my good friend's garden, and we come back from a party one night. I've had a moment when I was bullied in year 7. The bullies weren't there, but I was just in the space. I've had a moment at football training, which is really random, which I never would have thought, was never in my conscious brain at all. And in that moment, I I didn't feel good enough, and I needed some support from my parents. And I hate to say it as if they're bad parents, because they weren't bad parents, but they weren't there to give it to me. What else did I have? And the last one, well, I've had a few, but there was the one with that I mentioned where I was watching the kids play football. And it was crazy because I was watching these kids play football, and they was about 4 or 5 years older than me. Of course, they wasn't going to let me play football with them. They was much better. I would have been like, I don't know, probably 10 at the time. And they was like 15, 16. And they had no interest in letting me play, which is obviously understandable. But in that childhood meditation, the inner work, I come up to myself and I started crying. And I said, I don't want mum and dad to break up. And this was at 10. Now they didn't break up for another 2 years. So even at that early stage, it was in my mind and I was feeling lonely. So whether it was the football because I was left out, or whether it was like a compounding thing and the football was just where I was at the time, I'm not entirely sure, but it was crazy. And that was a memory I never had. And I didn't even know that I had thoughts of my mum and dad breaking up before they did. Because I'm not sure if any of you guys are the same, but I hear this a lot. But we block out our childhood memories when we've had a lot of trauma. We've had a lot of stuff go on. So yeah, it's really powerful. But the way you get into it is first getting into meditation. And you don't need to spend weeks and months and years doing it. Do a week, do 2 weeks, and then start doing the inner child stuff. And you only have to Google it. If you Google it, YouTube it, and you'll be able to find inner child meditations. Now, what I have found is I was really fortunate. So my coach's one that he sent me was really good. He recorded that himself. What I would say and what I found recently is anything that's too descriptive, because they'll tell you to like be in a certain place. So some of them will tell you to like be in a happy place, like somewhere you feel secure. So for me, I don't know, I always have this picture of like laying in this field, but other people will actually guide you through and they say, right, now you're in a field or now you're in a woods, and then you'll turn left down a path. And sometimes that's a bit too descriptive for me because I can't visualize it fully, and then it's hard to get into. So have a play around. Just be open to it. Whatever resonates for you, I can definitely recommend some. I've done some incredible ones. And just be open, let it come out. Now, I've done this a bit backwards, but some pre-framing. What I would recommend for all meditation is don't be sitting on your phone, scrolling through Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and then go and do a meditation. Sit there, go for a walk, be still, be in your own thoughts. Give yourself a good half an hour of not being distracted, not having any big dramas in your life, But you could be, for me, sometimes I'd go on Instagram and I'd be looking at girls or something, and then I just wouldn't be in the right headspace. Like, you need to be there for you. You need to be thinking about you and just letting it all come out. But what a lot of this has taught me, and you'll hear me ramble on about this a lot, is these situations, watching the lads play football and not being involved is nothing. But think about that from a younger child. Would you just downplay that to a younger child who's feeling upset in that moment? Of course you wouldn't. You'd be there for them. You'd be empathetic. You'd be compassionate. And guess what? This younger child's within us. So we need to be compassionate for ourselves. You need to be there for yourself. You need to be empathetic. So not only in this scenario, when you're finding out these situations, but then later on, when you're having any thoughts or emotions, don't be telling yourself you shouldn't be feeling them. Back yourself up. So, for instance, if you're missing somebody, tell yourself that's because you're a good person, you had a good connection, and you showed up. You showed up for that person. Whatever it is, like you might be feeling a certain way that, I don't know, maybe you've shouted at your son or daughter and you felt that you overreacted and you shouldn't have done. Like, just tell yourself that that's okay because you're human, but you've apologised, you've made it better, and that's healthy. People make mistakes and it's good for kids to see that. Like, you've really got to be like empathetic in these situations. And all of this process will teach you to do that. It's funny because my coach never actually taught me to do that or said directly to do that. Or if he did, to be fair, he might have, but I didn't. It didn't really resonate with me. It wasn't until I started doing the mother and father stuff, which I'll go onto in a separate video, that I really started being empathetic for myself, because I was like, the younger me needed somebody, needed a certain thing. And it's hard for me to say that because my parents were good, great people. They did the best they could for me, but they were just missing in certain aspects. And every child, and if you're a parent, every child needs this. They need to be seen, heard, and felt. All three of those, don't be missing any of them. And if you are, they're going to have some sort of issues later on down the line, potentially. Now, like a father might be able to do two of them and the mother do the other one, but, there needs to be a good combination. I would suggest that both parties need to do all three to a degree. I mean, that's just my opinion on that, by the way, so I'm not anything I've particularly looked into. But yeah, hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight into the inner child work, but just believe in it. It's powerful. And once you brought up these memories, you go to I didn't necessarily go to a deep, dark place with them, but I brought them up. And if they're in that subconscious that your brain's hidden away, your brain's put them in the closet for a reason. And now you've unearthed them and you can be rid of them. Not be rid of them as if you don't need them anymore, but, they're not hiding away now. You're aware of them. You're compassionate. You're empathetic to yourself. So yeah, it's really powerful stuff, man. And it sounds like witchcraft, I know. Trust me, I know. But it's honestly so, so good. If you got this far, appreciate you. And do all the good YouTube stuff, like, comment, share, subscribe. If I've said anything that you got questions about, please do drop them below. If I forgot to add the links, which I probably am going to, then ask me down below and I'll sort them out. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.